Welcome to Fear and Fiction, where the stories are strange and the fear is real. What's going on, Fear and Fiction family? We are back at it. Hope everybody's doing well. Hope y'all staying out of trouble. Today, we're going to dive into some laundromat horror stories. I live in a big city. There was a time in my life where I was definitely in laundromats. So, guys, jump in those comments and tell me about your crazy laundromat story. Now, let's get into it.
The machines in my building went down back in March, and the landlord has been waiting on a part ever since, which anybody who rents knows is a sentence that can last a year. So I started taking my laundry to a 24-hour spot on the east side of Paterson. I go at 2 in the morning. That's not a spooky choice. It's a practical one. I get off my second job at 1. I'm already up, and at that hour, you get the whole place to yourself. Every machine open, nobody watching you fold your drawers. The place is what you'd expect. Green-white fluorescent lights that hum louder than they should. 2 rows of washers back to back down the middle, dryers along both walls, a folding table by the window, and one of those change machines that takes your 5 like it's doing you a favor. My first Tuesday there, 1 washer was running when I walked in. Middle of the row, mid-cycle, clothes going around. Didn't think a thing about it. Somebody dropped a load and went to get food. Except I was there almost 2 hours, and nobody ever came. The lot stayed empty the whole time, except for my car. When I left, that washer had finished, sat quiet, and the clothes were still in it. Second Tuesday, same washer, running when I walked in, and I want to be fair to myself. I built the reasonable version first. Somebody who works a shift like mine, drops a load on the way home, comes back for it in the morning. Maybe the attendant runs a cleaning cycle. Maybe the timer's faulty and it self-starts. Machines do that. I ran through every version on the drive home and slept fine. It's a washing machine. It's the least haunted object in America. I checked the lot this time. Empty. I checked the sidewalk through the window. Nothing. 2 in the morning in Paterson, and I'm the only human being anywhere near this laundromat. And washer number 11 is mid-cycle like somebody just walked away from it. Here's where it gets strange, and I want to lay it out exactly how it happened. Third Tuesday, I got there earlier than usual, maybe 1:40. Washer 11 was quiet, empty, I assumed. I loaded my stuff 2 machines down, got it going, sat by the folding table with my phone. At 2 o'clock, and I know it was 2 because I looked because of what happened, washer 11 started, by itself. Lights on the panel, water filling, drum turning. I was the only person in the building. Nobody had come through the door. The door has a buzzer, and I would have heard it. I sat there and watched the washing machine run a full cycle that nobody started. And when it went into the spin, I could see the drum was not empty. I didn't get up. I'm being honest about that. I sat right there by that folding table and watched washer 11 finish its cycle at 2:40 something, and click, and go quiet. And I looked at that machine for a long time. And then I did the thing I'd been telling myself all month I wasn't going to do. I walked over and opened it. Work clothes. A man's work clothes. The heavy dark blue kind. The uniform kind. The kind you wash separate because of what's on them. Damp, clean, smelling like detergent. A full load. Folded. And I need you to understand this. Some of them were folded. Inside the drum. You cannot fold clothes inside a washing machine drum. The spin cycle turns everything into a rope. These were folded like they'd come off a table. I closed the door. I moved my own laundry to a dryer on the far wall, and I sat facing washer 11 until my stuff was done, and I went home. I asked about it the next week. The place has a woman who comes in mornings to clean and make change. I described the washer, the Tuesday nights, the work clothes. She didn't laugh at me, which I appreciated. She said she's found that load in 11 on Wednesday mornings for years. She takes the clothes out, they sit in the lost bin, and by the next week they're gone, and it happens again. She stopped trying to figure it out a long time ago. Then she told me there used to be a man who came every Tuesday night, back when the place had an overnight attendant, worked at one of the plants, washed his uniforms at 2 in the morning, same machine every time, because he said 11 was the only one that didn't eat quarters. Did it for years. She said he passed the same year the plant closed. I still go on Tuesdays. Machines in my building are still broken. And I'll tell you what I do now, because it's the only thing that made the situation feel right. At 2 in the morning, when washer 11 starts up on its own, I say, hey, just hey. The way you nod at the one other person doing laundry at that hour. 2 people on the same schedule, minding their own business. He never bothers my clothes. I never touch machine 11. We're fine. I've got 2 kids, a job and a half, and no washer in my unit. So laundry happens when it happens. Usually Sunday nights after I drop the kids at my sister's for school week prep. There's a laundromat on the east side of Saginaw I've used for 3 years. Big place, older. Half the machines got handwritten out of order signs that have been there longer than me. But it's close, it's cheap, and at 9 or 10 on a Sunday night, it's usually just me. Back in the fall, I was doing my usual 3 loads going because with kids, it's always 3 loads. I'd gotten the first load dried and dumped it on the folding table, this mountain of little shirts and socks, and I realized I'd left my basket in the trunk. So I stepped out to the lot. My car was right in front of the window. I got the basket. I answered a text from my sister. Maybe I stood out there 5 minutes, 6 tops. When I came back in, the mountain was folded, every piece. My son's shirts in one stack, my daughter's in another, socks matched and balled, everything squared up neat on that table, like a department store display. Better than I fold, and I fold all day, every day, so that's saying something. My first thought, my honest first thought, was that I'd folded it myself. That sounds crazy, until you've been a working mother. You do whole tasks on autopilot. I have driven to my sister's and not remembered one turn. I have signed permission slips in my sleep. I stood there genuinely asking myself whether 5 exhausted minutes had disappeared on me, whether my hands had done the folding while my head was somewhere else. But I was holding the basket, the empty basket I had just walked in with. You can't fold a mountain of laundry and then leave to go get the thing you needed to fold it into. I stood by that table and I looked around that laundromat, every aisle, the bathroom and back, which was locked from the outside like always. Behind the last row of dryers, there was nobody. The buzzer over the door hadn't gone off. I would have heard it from the lot. That thing is loud enough to wake the block. I'll be honest about what I did next, because it's what any tired mother would do. I said thank you, out loud, to an empty laundromat, and I took my folded clothes and I went home. When you raise kids alone, you don't interrogate help. You say thank you, but it kept happening. Not every week. It's happened 4 times over about 5 months, and always the same way. I step out, or I'm in the back at the dryers with my head down, and when I come back to the table, whatever was on it is folded. Kids' clothes especially. My stuff, my work clothes. Sometimes it touches, sometimes it doesn't. But my baby's clothes get folded every single time and matched and stacked small to big. The 4th time, in February, something new. My daughter had lost a sock weeks before, one of those tiny purple ones with the strawberry on the ankle, and if you have kids, you know the missing sock is a permanent condition of your life. I hadn't seen it in a month. Different laundromat visit entirely. It was sitting on top of her folded stack, matched with its pair. The pair I knew for a fact had gone into my drawer at home as a single. I asked the man who owns the place about it. He's there Saturday mornings doing maintenance. Older man, been running it forever. I told him the whole thing, ready for him to look at me sideways. He nodded before I even finished, like I was confirming something instead of reporting it. There was a woman. For 20-some years, she practically lived in that laundromat. She did wash and fold for half the east side out of that building, back when he rented her the back corner. Working mothers would drop their loads off before a shift and pick them up folded after. She raised her own kids on that folding money, knew every family's clothes by sight, could tell you whose sock was whose without a name on anything. She passed about 6 years ago. Her table, he pointed, was the one by the window, the one I use. One more thing. I wasn't the first to mention it. but that it doesn't happen for everybody. He's watched people leave clothes on that table for an hour and come back to the same pile they left. Near as he can tell, it only happens for the mothers who come in late alone with kids' clothes. The ones doing what she used to do, the ones she would have helped. I still go Sunday nights. I still say thank you to the empty room every time, whether the clothes get folded or not. My sister thinks I should find a new laundromat. I think some help you don't walk away from. And I think, wherever she is, she still knows whose socks are whose. I'm home in Monroe for the summer between semesters, staying with my mom, and her dryer quit in June, right when Louisiana humidity makes a dryer non-negotiable. So a couple nights a week, I take our stuff to a laundromat off Renwick Street. I go around midnight. Mom thinks that's reckless. I think midnight is the only time the place is empty, and I can watch my shows on my phone in peace. The layout matters for this, so let me set it up. The dryers run along the walls, big commercial ones with the round glass doors, porthole style. The washers sit in the middle in back-to-back rows. If you sit in the plastic chairs along one wall, you're facing the dryers on the opposite wall, and the row of washers is behind you. Those round dryer doors are basically mirrors when the drum isn't spinning. Dark glass, curved, and they catch the whole room behind you. I never thought about that once in my life until the night I'm about to describe. Middle of July, midnight maybe. My clothes are in dryer 6, tumbling. I'm in a chair against the wall, phone up, one earbud in. And in the dark glass of dryer 5, the still one right next to mine, I catch the reflection of the room behind me. There's somebody sitting back there. In the row behind me at the far end, somebody is sitting on top of one of the washers. I can see them in the curve of the glass. A figure, up on the machine the way teenagers sit on washers, hands on their knees, facing my direction. I hadn't heard the door buzzer. I hadn't heard anybody come in. But okay, maybe they were there before me. Maybe I walked right past them. I turned around to check because that's what you do. The row was empty. Every washer top, bare. The whole back of the laundromat, empty under those green-white lights. I turned back to the dryer glass. The reflection was still there. I want to be careful and precise here, because I've gone over this so many times. This was not a smudge, not a jacket on a machine, not my own reflection doubled. The room behind me was empty, and the reflection of the room in that glass had a person in it, sitting on the washer, hands on knees, facing me. Both things were true at the same time, and I was looking back and forth between them fast enough to be sure. My clothes had 22 minutes left. I remember the number because I decided, sitting there, that I was not leaving my mama's good towels in a dryer in Monroe over this, and 22 minutes became the length of the standoff. I kept my eyes mostly on my phone, checked the glass every minute or so. The figure never moved. Sat there, patient, hands on knees, the way somebody waits on a slow load. And then, with maybe 8 minutes left, I looked up at the glass and it had turned its head. It wasn't facing my direction generally anymore. In the reflection, its face was pointed at me, at my reflection. And the thing I can't explain to people so they feel it the way I felt it is this. Being looked at in a reflection is worse than being looked at, because both of you are in the glass together. Whatever room that reflection was showing, I was in it with him. I did not wait out the 8 minutes. I got up, calm. I made myself move calm. Opened dryer 6, armed the whole warm load out into my basket, and I walked to the door watching that glass in the corner of my eye the entire way. The reflection sat on the washer and turned, slow, tracking me across the room. The row of washers stayed empty the whole time. I told my mom a week later. She was quiet, then asked which laundromat. And when I told her, she asked which side of the room. Which wall was I sitting against? I told her. She nodded like that settled something. Then she told me a rule she's kept her whole life and never once explained to me before. You don't study dark glass at night. Not mirrors, not windows, not anything that shows you a room. She said it flat, like a fact about the stove being hot. Then my mom said the part that comes back to me whenever I fold clothes now. She said, it can't do anything but look, long as you don't look back too long. You look back the once. That's fine. Everybody looks the once. Just don't ever make it a conversation. I still do the laundry at that spot. It's the closest one and mama's dryer is still broke. But I sit facing the washers now, back to the glass, and I keep both earbuds out. I picked up the overnight shift at a 24-hour laundromat on the south side of Syracuse because it pays a little extra and it's supposed to be easy. You make change, you mop, you keep the peace if somebody's dryer beef gets loud. Most nights between 2 and 5, the place is dead, and I'm getting paid to sit behind a counter and study. I'm 2 classes from an associate's. This job was supposed to be a means to an end. My 3rd week, I was behind the counter around 3 in the morning when a washer started. Middle of the floor, row 2, lights, water, drum. I looked up expecting a customer I'd missed, but the floor was empty and the door buzzer hadn't gone. I walked over. Machine 14, running a normal cycle. Through the glass, nothing inside, just water turning. While I stood there, 15 started, then 17, not 16, 14, 15, 17, feeling one after the other like somebody was walking down the row hitting start. I checked the whole floor, the bathroom, the back hall by the water heater, empty building. 3 machines running full cycles with nothing in them, and me. They finished about 40 minutes later, all 3, and clicked off, and the place went back to humming fluorescent silence. I wrote it up in the shift log as a possible electrical issue, and I want to be clear. I believe that. Old building, 30 machines on shared circuits, power that dips every time the heat kicks on. A surge trips a relay starts a cycle. I told myself that version so thoroughly that I Googled it on my break and found forum posts about machine self-starting, and I felt better, and I went home and slept fine. The timer is what took the explanation away from me. Surges are random. 312 is not random. 3 machines, same order, same minute, every night. That's not a circuit. That's a schedule. It happened the next night, 312. I know because I was watching for it that time, with my phone out. 14, 15, 17, same order. I have video of a washing machine starting itself, which sounds like proof of something until you watch it back and realize it just looks like a video of a washing machine. I told the owner. He read my log notes, and he didn't call an electrician. That was the first thing that told me something. A man who owns 30 machines does not shrug at 3 of them running free cycles every night, eating water and power. He shrugged. He said if it bothers me, I could take my break at 3. That was the whole conversation. So I started asking around instead. The morning shift woman has been there 11 years. When I brought up 312, she didn't say anything at first. She was restocking the soap machine, and she kept restocking it. And then she said, not really to me. They used to let people wash for free at the end of the night. Back under the old owner, folks who couldn't pay, 3rd shift workers, people between places, mothers with nothing. Last cycle of the night ran free if the attendant liked you. Everybody on the south side knew. I asked what time the last free cycle used to run. She put the soap boxes down and looked at me and said, "You already know what time. Here's the part I've only told one person. About a month ago, a Tuesday, 312 came and 14 filled and started like always. And I don't know what got into me, being tired, being 23, being sick of writing electrical issue in a log the owner doesn't read. But I walked over and I pulled the door release on 14, mid-cycle. These commercial machines will unlock mid-cycle if you hold the release. The drum stops and the door size open. The drum stopped. The door opened. Water ran out over my shoes. And there were clothes in it. Wet, heavy, real. I put my hand on them. Work shirts, a child's jacket, towels gone thin. The kind of load somebody washes when everything they own fits in one machine. I stood there with my hand on wet fabric in a machine I had watched fill up empty. I closed the door. The cycle picked back up like I'd never touched it. When it finished 40 minutes later, I opened 14 again. Empty. Dry as a bone inside. The way a drum is when it's sat unused. 15 and 17, same. I still work the overnight. I still write in the log, though I stopped writing electrical. Now I just write 312, all three, no issues, and the owner still doesn't read it, and the morning woman still nods at me different than she used to, like I'm staff now in a fuller sense of the word. Whoever is coming in at 312 has been coming a long time, from somewhere the buzzer doesn't cover. They wash what they've got. They don't bother anybody. The last cycle of the night is free. Everybody on the south side knows. I keep the floor mopped and the soap stocked. Some customers you don't see. You just make sure the machines are ready. I moved to Spartanburg, South Carolina in January for my first real job out of school. First apartment, first everything, including my first place with no washer hookup, which nobody warns you to check for. So once a week I take my stuff to a laundromat on the south side, usually around 10 or 11 at night after the gym, when I can get in and out. The first time I went, there was an older woman at the back folding table, 60s, maybe 70s. House dress, the kind my aunts wear. She was folding a white sheet, a big flat one, king size probably, the kind that takes your whole wingspan. I nodded at her the way you nod at people. She didn't look up. Fine. Some people do their laundry to be left alone. I respect that. Second week, she was there again. Same table, same sheet, or the same kind of sheet. White, huge. Folding it slow and careful. Edge to edge. The way somebody folds when the fold matters to them. Third week, there. Same table, same sheet. By week 5, I'd noticed the things you notice once you're paying attention. I never saw her come in, and I never saw her leave. She was there when I arrived and there when I left. She never had a basket. No detergent, no bag, no machine running that I could connect to her. Just a table, and the sheet, and the folding. And the sheet never got folded. That's the detail that finally sat up in my brain. You fold a sheet, it gets smaller, it becomes a square, you set it down. Hers never got smaller. Every time I looked over, she was somewhere in the middle of the job, halving it, smoothing it, bringing the corners together, and the sheet was always still the whole sheet. I mentioned her to the attendant, a guy about my age who works the counter evenings and mostly plays games on his phone. Casual, just making conversation. The lady at the back table, she here every night? He looked up at me for a while, longer than the question deserved. Then he said, nobody folds back there. That table's got a busted leg. It's been roped off with a wet floor sign for a year. I looked at the back table. The woman was there, folding. There was a yellow wet floor sign next to the table, which I had genuinely never registered until that moment. The way you don't register things that have always been part of the picture. I asked him, I kept my voice normal, if he could see the back table from where he was. He said sure. I asked what was on it. Nothing, he said. He wasn't messing with me. He was already back on his phone. Nothing's on it. I did my laundry that night at the machines closest to the door, and I did not look at the back table. And I want you to know that not looking at something for 45 minutes is one of the hardest physical activities a human being can attempt. I should have switched laundromats, I know, but it's the closest one to my apartment, and the machines are good, and honestly, she had never done anything. She folded. That was her whole activity. Whatever she was the least threatening thing in any room. That's what I told myself for 3 more weeks. Then last night happened. I was pulling my load out of the dryer around 11:30, place empty, except for me and the attendant up front with his phone. And I felt the change in the room before I understood it, the way you feel it when someone stops moving. The rhythm at the edge of my vision, the slow fold and smooth that had been the background of every laundry night for 2 months, had stopped. I looked at the back table. She was looking at me, first time. 2 months of never once raising her head, and she was looking directly at me, and then, slow, no drama in it at all, she raised her arms and held out her end of the sheet, both hands, corners pinched, held out toward me. Anybody who grew up helping fold knows exactly what that gesture is. It isn't a threat, it's an invitation. A flat sheet is a 2-person job. 1 person can fight it alone forever, or 2 people can walk toward each other, bring their corners together, and be done in 10 seconds. She had been fighting it alone for, I don't know how long. Longer than 2 months. Maybe a lot longer. And she was asking me to take my end. I stood there with my warm clothes against my chest. And the honest truth, the part I keep turning over, is that for a second I almost put my basket down. It was such an ordinary ask. An older woman needing a hand with a sheet. Every instinct I was raised with said help her. Something older than my raising said, do not walk to the back of this room. I told her out loud. And the attendant looked up when I did. I can't tonight, ma'am. She held her corners out one more second. Then she nodded, small, no offense taken, and went back to folding. I go to a different laundromat now. It's 15 minutes further and the dryers eat quarters and I do not care. Because here's the thing I can't stop thinking about. She's been folding that sheet alone for a long time. And she's patient. And every week there is somebody new in this city with no washer hookup doing laundry at 11 at night. One night, somebody polite is going to put their basket down and take the other in. And I think about what happens when the two of them walk toward each other, corners pinched, and bring that sheet together in the middle. I just hope whoever it is says no like I did. Some things only need one more pair of hands to finish. I want to say up front, there's nothing in this story I can't explain. No ghosts. Everything that happened was a person doing things a person can do. That's why I'm telling it. I was staying with my auntie on the west side of Rockford last winter, between apartments, working days at a warehouse out by the airport. Her building has no laundry, so once a week I'd take my stuff to a 24-hour spot about 6 blocks away. I liked it going at midnight. Empty machines, no waiting, in and out in 90 minutes. The night I'm talking about was a Thursday in January, cold the way northern Illinois gets cold, where the inside of the windows has frost. I had 2 loads going and I was sitting in the plastic chairs by the dryers with my phone, coat still on. And let me say, a laundromat at midnight collects strange. I'd seen things there that didn't rattle anybody. One night that winter, a man stood out front throwing a kitchen knife at the trees across the road, then walked in, stood by the door breathing heavy with the knife in his hand, and walked back out 10 seconds later. Nobody looked up from their folding. That's the baseline. You learn to file strange under weather, which is exactly why I almost missed the one that mattered. The door buzzer sounded around 12:20. A man came in, 40s maybe, work coat, boots, hands in his pockets. No basket, no bag, no detergent, nothing. I clocked that the way you clock things, a fact filed away, not an alarm. People come in to use the change machine sometimes. People come in to get warm, and it was 4 degrees outside, and honestly, who's checking? He walked past the change machine. He didn't look at the machines at all. He sat down in the row of chairs across from mine, facing me, and he took his hands out of his pockets and rested them on his knees. And he watched me. I told myself I was wrong about that. That's the first thing you do. You build the polite version. He's tired. He's staring into space, and I happen to be in the space. He's waiting on somebody whose clothes are already in a machine. I went back to my phone and I gave it a few minutes, and I used the oldest trick there is. I kept my eyes on the screen and my attention on him. He wasn't staring into space. Every time I shifted, his head moved, small, tracking. My clothes had about 30 minutes left in the dryers. I did the math on that. 30 minutes of sitting in an empty laundromat at midnight with a man with no laundry watching me, or leave a week of work clothes in the machines and come back in the morning. I decided the clothes could survive a wrinkled night, and then I undecided, because walking out meant walking to my car alone in a dark lot, and at least in here there were cameras, or a camera, a dome on the ceiling I'd never once thought about until that night, that I was now praying wasn't a decoy. I texted my cousin, not a panic text, the other kind. You up? She was. I told her where I was and what was happening, and I told her if I didn't text back by 1 to call me. That's not drama. That's just what you do. At 12:40, another customer came in. Older man, actual laundry, big blue IKEA bag of it. And I watched the man across from me react to that buzzer like it was a starting gun. He stood up. First time he'd moved in 20 minutes, put his hands back in his pockets and walked out. Didn't look at me on the way. Didn't look at anything. I pulled my clothes out of the dryers damp, stuffed both loads in my basket in about 90 seconds, and I asked the older man if he'd mind watching me walk to my car. He didn't ask why. He stood in the doorway with his arms crossed until I was in with the doors locked. West side of Rockford. People know what that request means, and nobody makes you explain it. I pulled out of the lot onto the main road. Headlights pulled out behind me. A dark sedan that had been parked on the street, not in the lot, on the street, past the edge of the lot lights. It made the same first turn I made. Then the second one. I was 4 blocks from my auntie's, and I did the thing you're supposed to do, which is not go home. I drove past her street. I made 2 more turns, one of them a turn nobody makes, a residential loop that goes nowhere. The headlights stayed with me through the loop. There's a police station on West State Street. I didn't have a plan more sophisticated than that. I drove there and pulled into the lot, right up near the front under the lights, and I sat with my doors locked and my phone in my hand. The sedan slowed on the street, didn't turn in, rolled past the lot entrance at maybe 10 miles an hour, slow enough that it was a message or a decision being made, and then kept going, and its taillights went down West State until I couldn't see them. I sat in that lot for 40 minutes, texted my cousin. Then I drove home a way that made no geographic sense and watched my mirrors the whole time. I never saw the man again. I never saw the car again. Or if I did, I couldn't have told you because it was a dark sedan in the Midwest, which is every third car. Here's the aftermath, because that's the part that stays. I don't do midnight laundry anymore. I go Saturday mornings when the place is full of families and the folding tables are all taken and somebody's kids are running around. And I used to think of all that as the annoying version of doing laundry. Now it's the only version. Crowded means safe. I'll take the weight. And I still think about the math of it. He came in with nothing. He sat facing me. He left the second another person arrived. He was parked on the street where the lot cameras don't reach. None of that is illegal. All of it was deliberate. That's the thing about the ones who are careful. You never get proof. You just get a story you tell other women so they go on Saturday mornings too. I work a front desk job outside Wilmington, Delaware, Monday through Friday, and Saturday afternoons are my errand block. Groceries, then laundry. My spot is on the east side, a few blocks off Church Street. Been my routine about a year. The place is old, but the machines run right. An early Saturday afternoon is usually me and 1 or 2 other regulars, everybody minding their own. This was in February, during that stretch when an ice storm came through the mid-Atlantic. I had a wash going, and I was half watching the weather on my phone, and the lights flickered once, the way they do, and everybody in Delaware knows that flicker in an ice storm is the 2-minute warning. The power went out around 2 in the afternoon. The whole block. I could see it happen through the front window. The gas station sign across the way went dark mid-flicker. The traffic light at the corner blacked out between colors, and inside the laundromat everything shut down at once. The overhead fluorescence, the change machine, the washers mid-cycle, the dryers mid-tumble. The sky outside had gone that flat gray ice storm color, so the loss of light inside was still stark. That sudden total quiet where you realize how much noise a laundromat makes, because it's all gone at the same time. Except one dryer was still going. Back wall, bottom row, third from the end. I could hear it before I found it. That steady tumble rhythm, the only machine sound left in a room that had gone completely quiet. And I could see it clear as anything in the gray daylight through the windows, turning at full speed like nothing had happened. The polite version came fast. Like always, backup battery. Some machines have them. Different circuit. Maybe the back wall was on another line. Except the dryer next to it was dead, and the one next to that, and every light in the building and the entire block through the window. There's no circuit that's one dryer. I walked over to look closer, and I want to be exact about what I saw, because this is the whole story. The drum was spinning. The display was dead. No numbers, no lights on the panel, nothing. A dryer's display cuts off when the power cuts. The drum doesn't care. The drum was going, and it was empty. No clothes, nothing tumbling. Just the drum itself, turning at speed, in a machine with no power, in a building with no power, on a block with no power. The other person in there that afternoon, a woman about my mother's age who'd been folding towels when the lights dropped, came and stood next to me, and the two of us watched it in the gray daylight, and neither of us said anything for a while. Then she said, real quiet, not scared exactly, "Leave it be. It'll finish. It'll finish." Like it was a cycle, like it was somebody's load. We went back to the front of the store. The city took about 25 minutes to get the block back up, and when the power came on, every machine in the building did that reset thing. Displays flashing 88 to 88, washers clicking, beeping everywhere, all of them announcing they'd lost their place and given up. The dryer on the back wall stopped, not reset, stopped. Right as the power returned, the way a machine stops when its cycle is done. When I walked back there, its display was on like all the others, but it wasn't flashing. It read 00, cycle complete. Every machine in that building lost power and forgot where it was. That one finished. The woman folding towels packed up her stuff, and on her way out she stopped by me and said one more thing. She'd been coming to that laundromat 30 years. She said that dryer runs sometimes when the weather turns bad. Ice storms, the big thunderstorms in summer, anytime the power's about to go or just went, day or night. She said her theory, and she said it like a fact she'd settled a long time ago, was that somebody once needed their clothes dry on a night the power didn't cooperate, needed it bad, and some needs don't expire. She didn't explain more than that. People who've been somewhere 30 years never do. I still do my laundry there, same Saturday routine, but I check the weather first now. That's the change. That's what that afternoon left me with. If there's ice coming, or one of those black sky summer storms rolling up from Baltimore, I wait a day. Not because I'm scared of a dryer, because if the power goes and that drum starts turning in the dark, that's somebody's cycle running, and it wasn't mine to watch the first time. I moved to Waterloo, Iowa 2 years ago for a job at the John Deere plant. Same reason half the black families in Waterloo came up from the South, 2 or 3 generations back. I didn't know that history when I moved. I learned it the way you learn a place, one conversation at a time, mostly at an east side laundromat I've used since my second week in town. It's an older spot, family run since forever, an attendant on duty most days, machines that take quarters only, no card reader, no app, and a handwritten sign taped to the change machine that says, "Out of order. See attendant for change." That sign has been there the entire 2 years I've been coming. The tape has gone yellow. The change machine is furniture. The day this happened, I came in around 1 in the afternoon with 2 loads and exactly not enough quarters. I'd counted wrong at home. I needed $3 more in quarters, and I had a 20, and the attendant, an older woman who's there most days, been there longer than the sign, was in the back moving a cart of wash and fold. So I'm standing there with my 20, waiting, and out of pure habit I glanced at the dead change machine on my way past. There was a stack of quarters in the dispenser tray, neat stack, sitting in the little metal tray where change drops below the out of order sign on a machine that has not worked in at least 2 years. I counted it without touching it, the way you count something suspicious. 12 quarters, $3, the exact amount I was short. My first move was the honest one. I found the attendant and told her somebody left their change in the machine tray, 12 quarters. They'd probably be back for it. She came around the corner wiping her hands on her apron and looked at the stack. And then she looked at me and she asked one question. "How much did you need?" I said $3, and I watched her face do the thing faces do when an answer confirms something rather than informs it. She nodded at the tray and said, "Then take them. They're yours." I'm not going to pretend I argued much. I took the quarters, I ran my loads, and when the lunch rush cleared out and the place went quiet, she told me the rest, folding somebody's towels the whole time like the story wasn't remarkable, which to her I don't think it was anymore. The man who ran the place before her, decades before, back when the east side was full of Deere families and the machines took dimes, kept a coffee can of change behind the counter. Anybody came up short, he'd spot them from the can. No ledger, no paying him back, no speech about it. She said half the east side did their laundry short at some point in their lives, and he covered every one, and the ones who could would drop extra in the can when they had it, and the can never went empty in 30-some years. He passed a long time back. The can went with him, or so everyone thought. Then the change machine broke. This was a couple years ago, and the repair quote was more than the machine was worth, so they taped up the sign and forgot about it. And a few weeks after it quit, she started finding quarters in the tray, not every time. She said there's no schedule to it, and it's never a random amount. It's always exact. Somebody in the building is short. Sometimes they've said so out loud. Sometimes they've only stood there counting their coins with their lips moving. And sometime in the next little while, there's a stack in the tray of a machine with no power to its coin mechanism, and it's the exact difference between what they have and what they need. She stopped reporting it to the owner years ago. Now she just does what the old man would have done, which is tell people to take it. I did my own test eventually. I'm admitting that. About a month later, I came in with plenty of quarters, but I stood by the folding table and said out loud but quiet to nobody, "I'm $2 short." Then I went and started my loads with the quarters I had, feeling stupid. And when I walked past the machine on my way out, the tray was empty, and I felt more stupid, and honestly a little relieved. The attendant watched me check it. She didn't laugh at me. She just said, "It doesn't work like that." He always knew who was really short. The can never went empty, and it never got played either. Some help keeps its own books. I keep extra quarters in my glove box now, not for me. I leave a few on the folding table sometimes, where somebody short might find them. It felt right to put something back in the can. The tray had a stack in it again last month. Young dude at the washers counting coins with his lips moving. I didn't say anything. I just watched him find it. Everybody on the east side gets found eventually.
All right, all right, all right. Y'all made it to the end. If you did, I want to thank you for taking the time to come check out the video. Please like, share, subscribe, hype the video, all those cool things. Get in those comments and tell me which story was your favorite. Thank you for your time.